Before we start, just a reminder that I have a Twitch page where I stream 3 days a week. The link is in the description below. Thanks everyone.
All units, all points bulletin on a stolen police vehicle. Last seen heading west on Newark Avenue.
Given how popular the open world genre is on ColourShed Productions, it's surprising that it's taken this long to talk about World's Scariest Police Chases on the PlayStation, a game I put a decent number of hours into growing up, as well as the latest most voted suggestion on Patreon, thanks Betaco. Released on June 2001 for the PS1 exclusively, which is surprising given that PlayStation 2 was out by that point, not even a PC or Game Boy Advance port, the latter really surprising, and based off the TV show World's Wildest Police Videos, which is essentially a collection of real-life crimes caught on camera all over America and occasionally outside it too, hosted by former Sheriff John Bernal, including its own spin-off episodes dedicated to the car chases called, you guessed it, World's Scariest Police Chases. The entire series is available to watch on YouTube officially, including its one-season revival in 2012. Made it so much easier to get a feel of what the TV show is like for this review, so thanks FilmRise's True Crime for that, check it out. We still have a few police-related shows in Australia, usually around 8:30 PM, though all you see nowadays are cops convicting the flogs who are either pretending to be confused or completely adamant they're in the right, over something like a speeding fine or a missing number plate. It's obviously a far cry from the extreme situations presented in World's Wildest Police videos. But when I saw this game as a kid, it was thanks to a friend who got the PS1 Activision Space Chase Pack, which included Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, Space Invaders, and World's Scariest Police Chases. And unlike the Driver and Grand Theft Auto titles, because you play as a cop, my parents were okay with me playing this game. Player discretion, despite being rated PG in Australia? Sure.
For the police, high-speed pursuits are a fact of life. The last thing fleeing fugitives care about is the safety of themselves and others. The only way to protect the innocent and the guilty is to rely upon instincts honed by intense training.
Well, welcome to Ashland. It just screams American suburban livelihood. I wasn't sure if this was based on a real-life city. There is a town in Oregon called Ashland, but I don't see the resemblance between the two places, so I'm assuming this is about as fictional as Simpsons Springfield.
Control, we're now heading east on Sunflower Road. Control, we're now heading north on Johnson Road.
Quickly talking about being able to just drive around this map. Like Driver, this was my favorite thing to do growing up. I just wanted to explore, see how large and diverse it was, go into freeways, enter the police training area, drive under the tunnels, not even bothering to enter pursuit with the crooks on the road.
We lost him!
Yeah, I clearly had nothing better to do when I was a kid.
Control, we're now heading south on Interstate 112.
It has so many different connections and the variety of places, including beaches, suburbs, dirt terrain, tunnels, and almost felt like a maze, but not in a bad way. Found it so fascinating. Ashland is the only map in the whole game, but it's still decently sized one that feels way less square-shaped than Driver. As far as sandbox maps go, this is honestly one of the best on the PS1. Like, imagine what a Driver game would look like if they had this map. Well, technically we got World's Scariest Police Chases. You can select between multiple vehicles, and every time you find somewhere new,
Do you have tickets for tomorrow's game?
Nope.
you can start at that spot next time. The whole point of free roam is to catch as many offenders as possible before your vehicle is too damaged to continue, like an arcade machine. I have to say, for a map this size, Ashland has a very high crime rate when you think about it.
Got him. He's out of commission.
Great work, Unit 1.
It is annoying that most vehicles you enter pursuit are always pointing the opposite way of where you want to explore, but at least it isn't mandatory to catch every single offending vehicle.
Control, this is Unit 1. We've apprehended the suspect. We're bringing him in. He'll need to sober up before we have a chat with him.
A split second or wrong turn can mean the difference between life and death.
The narration provided by John Bernal himself I really like. In a way, it's a neat time capsule of the 90s to early 2000s TV. I mean, even when you fail, it can sound pretty epic.
Police could only watch as these embittered brothers carried out their message of mayhem, leaving a trail of terror and destruction in their wake.
It's not like Driver where you're undercover with twists and turns, save a few missions. You're a police officer where the jobs get harder and harder each one you pass, with lots of vehicle types, situations, so the variety is there, not just stopping drivers but escorting ambulances, defusing bombs, and tanks. I was worried the final mission Benel would say that Godzilla has found a way to America and is terrorizing Ashland's own town center. Though I argued that some of these criminals are about as hard to stop as Godzilla anyway.
Control, this is Unit 1. We got him. He's out of the game.
Seriously, as a kid, I don't remember playing the pursuit mode and reaching further than the 4th mission, and the furthest I saw my brother get through the game was probably mission 8, Bus Gone Bad. So I technically fared better than the first driver, but to put it bluntly, this is a hard game from start to finish.
Control, Unit 1 is out of the chase. Our car is totaled.
Training, preparation, and readiness are what give law enforcement the edge over reckless and dangerous criminals.
Firstly, the tutorial doesn't set a good first impression. Sure, you're not in an indoor car park, but there are certain gameplay mechanics that are crucial to learn, but poorly demonstrated. Unsurprisingly, the driving mechanics are very clunky. Like literally when you turn, the car feels like it's being pushed from one side for a second before it starts rotating like a bus. It's a really weird feeling that took time to get used to. It might not look like it in the gameplay, but I'm being as delicate as possible when driving. It also doesn't help that being a large PS1 map, the frame rate is very choppy, like it delays the already broken handling by nearly a second. I'm starting to think it's a TV problem. It's one of the few games where I need to turn on game mode on the telly to reduce the delay.
If we only had something faster than a pizza truck. I don't know how these guys get pizzas delivered on time.
But even without the technical issues, all the vehicles handle poorly, and nor is there any real difference between one vehicle to another. Maybe the four-wheel drive cop car bounces more than the others, but is no better off the road than a standard cop car.
Control, this is Unit 1. Blue van has been stopped.
To stop an enemy vehicle, you either stay on their tail until they decide to give up. You'll likely do this for the first few missions since the Force doesn't let you use lethal force by that point.
Knowing how to use your weapon is the only thing that counts when taking that final step.
One of the most important things to learn is drive-by shooting by simply pressing up on the D-pad while aiming, and it automatically locks onto the enemy vehicle. Shame the game didn't make that clear, which took this mission requiring you to do so by this point longer than necessary. All I can say with these missions is you'll want to stop these crooks as quickly as possible because like the driver titles, time limits are ridiculously short. Especially in scenarios where they don't make any sense, like collecting evidence that was dropped by the criminals during pursuit. Pretty much every single mission that required me to go back to collect it ended in tears on the first attempt. Like, nah, how is this virtually possible?
Battered and bruised, the police come to grips with losing out to these fearless felons.
Honestly though, why is there a time limit for gathering the evidence? Why can't they call another police car close by to pick it up? I guess it's about trial and error where the enemy will drive and the best weapon to use against them to stop them as quickly as possible so you can make it all happen in one perfect attempt. It's faster to take them down using lethal force, one weapon is better than the other, but in most instances you're depending on the game remaining stable enough or the car's physics to keep it going straight, and it can take one unexpected slip up to botch the entire mission. Whether it's an enemy vehicle ramming at you at the worst time, the worst angle, and sometimes the physics of the car to bounce and slide the wrong way and ruin everything. In this example, at least I was able to rebound and catch it, but normally when this happens, it's game over. The frustration also comes from the first part of the mission being harder than the second part and not knowing what to expect, having practically no time to figure it out. And suddenly you're back to square one consequently.
Now go back and collect that evidence.
Oh, I have to pick up the evidence and only have a minute to get to this point? It's too far. Or travel from one side of the map to the other. Now you must find the location of the bomb in less than 15 seconds. Oh wait, I wasn't supposed to hit it? No, you idiots. Now you're gonna drive from one side of the map to the other all over again. You're constantly begging for checkpoints on every mission.
Control, this is Unit 1. Blue van has been stopped. Situation under control.
Visual contact with red sports car has broken off.
The game's difficulty is exacerbated by its other flaws, the clunky driving mechanics and choppy frame rate, so you feel like you're being handicapped, and it conditions you to be in a hurry all the time, so of course you're gonna make more mistakes. And in terms of where the missions are structured, honestly the hardest missions appear in the middle, and the last few missions, the final showdown, I completed it on my first attempt.
Escaping from prison was a big mistake, and one that he'll pay for in decades added to his sentence.
And according to the stats, discounting all my failed attempts, it only took just over an hour to beat it. Maybe that's why it's so hard, to compensate for short gameplay time. It's not as hard as the Driver games, it's a little more stable, at least compared to Driver 2, and sets itself on one map, so by that point you have a good idea of where you are. But let's be honest, it was the early days of the 3D open world genre setting itself in cities rather than forests, caves, and deserts. Vehicles are about as clunky as you'd expect, the game can't handle the giant map size so the frame rate is choppy, and therefore steering delays for nearly a second. Any contact with vehicles typically does more harm than good, and time limits are super unforgiving, with nearly every mission completed feeling like a fluke. But after my experience with the driver titles, I'm not even annoyed. Well, I was when playing this game, but writing the script, I come to expect that from a game made before the open world genre took off and only had driver as a real influence. It was before GTA 3, Getaway, Simpsons Hit and Run, True Crime, and released at a time when the PlayStation 2 was already out by that point, so it wasn't gonna blow people away. We have plenty of open world franchises that can incorporate police car chase gameplay, but since we don't have a TV show to base it off, needless to say we're not expecting a remake or follow-up anytime soon. I admit, in some ways I liked it more than I thought. I do miss driving on this map, and it has plenty of variety in the missions, vehicles, map design, at least for a driver clone. The problem is the relentless difficulty and technical issues pushing the PlayStation maybe just a step too far. Maybe if you did grow up with this game, it's worth scratching that nostalgic itch at least once. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. You're not missing out.
Thank you for joining us on this wild ride through the lawless city of Ashland. I'm Sheriff John Bonnell. See you next time on World's Scariest Police Chases.
Thank you everyone on Patreon, including Bibbs, Brandon, Brittleback, Cooper Munn, Darcy McIntosh, David Myers, Emmanuel Figueroa, Eric Barboza, Atmosphere, Indy DM, Mike Camilli, Sam Sneed, Tickford45, and Thomas Rosendahl, as well as everybody watching this review. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow on Twitch where I stream 3-4 days a week, support on Patreon, join the Discord server, follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Thanks again for watching, and Spenny out.